Welcome to Restoration of Spirit. I'm Janet Kohl. You know that age-old expression, an apple a day?
Keep the doctor away.
Well, on today's show, we're going to do exactly that. By definition, restoration of spirit is getting back to the life we were meant to live. We do this primarily in two ways, through self-care and self-discovery. And once we learn what our dreams and our passions are, some of us need a jump start to change. Restoration of spirit is about learning to discover and having the courage to live your dreams. Only through our passion can we live a life of joy. Today we'll be heading to Homestead Orchard for some apple picking, which is always a fun fall family activity. And then I'll be teaching you some things to do with those apples once you get home. Homestead Orchard is a family-owned and operated orchard located in northern Illinois. It's home to Don and Barb Berta. Don was a retired physical education teacher and thought farming would be a good retirement project. He actually bought a farm in Wisconsin and started farming there first, but then shortly thereafter he met Barb and realized he needed to make his way back home to Illinois. So he bought the orchard 12 years ago, and he set the goal that if Barb would marry him, he would do so on his 70th birthday. They're still together and growing apples together 12 years later. Don personally prunes all of the apple trees himself, and it takes him all winter to do so. Together they run the orchard and greet visitors throughout the apple picking season. The orchard hosts a variety of apples. Many are great for applesauce, apple pie, apple cobbler, and especially eating them raw, picked fresh from the tree. The best time to eat an apple is when it's in season, fresh, and just picked from the tree. So every year around this time, the kitchen turns into an apple cooking extravaganza. Every year I make a classic traditional apple pie because it's my son Jake's favorite. And I'm big into juicing, so I'm going to juice all of these apples, but this year I'm going to turn it into a hot, spiced cider. And everybody's heard of pork chops and applesauce, but this year I'm going to make a special sauteed chicken with apples and one other special dessert. All of these items can be cooked in under 20 minutes, so there's no excuses to not use your fresh apples. Juicing fresh fruits and vegetables is so easy. I don't know why everybody doesn't do it and just go out and buy a juicer. You can get these at any conventional kitchen supply store. Nothing beats the taste of fresh fruit juice or vegetable juice. So it's super easy. All you do is pile in the apples, push the button to go. It's noisy. If you get a juicer or if you already have a juicer, another type of juice that's really good mixed in with your apple juice is adding a little bit of carrot and ginger. The ginger has a lot of health benefits. It gives you a little zing of energy, and it makes the flavor of the drink a little bit more zippy. So you don't have to use a whole huge piece of ginger. You can throw in just a small piece like this and it'll give you enough flavor, along with several carrots, and the rest apples will make a nice, flavorful, nutrient-rich drink that you could have every morning. So there we have it, our fresh juice. And nothing beats the taste or the smell of fresh juice of any kind. And that's all there is to it. Most juicers, you can put most of the components in the dishwasher. I know some people's complaint about why they don't want a juicer or have it or don't use it enough is because it can be kind of messy to clean up. There's a lot of different little parts. Although most of them can go in the dishwasher, I find that if you do a quick rinse immediately when you're done, it makes the cleanup a lot not as bothersome. One thing people forget about when they're done juicing is that you have this great pulp left over from the juice. And this pulp is edible. It's just mostly the peel of the apple and the rind. And you can either add this into one of your apple recipes that I'm going to be making later today, or you be sure to throw this into your compost because this makes a great nutrient-rich composting material that you can later use in your garden. After you've juiced all of your apples, you're ready to make your hot spiced apple cider. So the first thing you want to do is put 8 cups of apple juice into your pot. And if you don't have a juicer or you don't want to juice, you can buy fresh cider, maybe even at the orchard that you visited. So any fresh organic apple cider would be great. 8 cups of that. Then you're going to take 1 teaspoon of allspice, 1 teaspoon of cloves, a 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar, and I like to use cinnamon sticks, and you can use about 6 inches. So I'm going to throw in maybe 2 or 3 cinnamon sticks. That makes it smell really good. And then I'm going to cut an orange just because I happen to have one on hand, and so you can just throw whole orange slices right in there. Now I'm trying to do all of this in 20 minutes or less, so I'm not using a cheesecloth spice bag because that just ends up being a little bit too high maintenance. But one thing that you can do if you want is to actually spike your cloves right into the orange so that you don't have to worry about straining your cider later. So that's all there is to it, and then we put it on the stove, bring it to a boil. So after we've put the pot of cider on the stove, we're going to bring it to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down to a simmer for about 10 minutes. So we've done all of that in far less than 20 minutes. I promised that all of these recipes are going to be doable in under 20 minutes. And this is one of the reasons why we can do it so quickly. A lot of people don't like all of the peeling and slicing and coring of apples that you need to do in so many of the delicious apple desserts. Well, this helps at least do the slicing and coring for you in a relatively quick way. So you still have to peel the apples, but then once you use this tool, at least all of your slicing and dicing can be done very quickly. One of my favorite desserts is a fresh apple crisp. The first thing we're going to do is heat our oven to 350 degrees. And we use a 9x9 size baking dish. And the first thing that we're going to do is put 6 freshly peeled, cored, and sliced apples right into the baking dish. And also about a 1/2 cup of nuts. You can use pecans or walnuts. And then I like to use 1 lime, both the zest and the juice of a lime. And to get the zest looking really pretty, I use a zester, but you can also just use a grater and grate all of the skin off of the lime. So with the zester, it looks really pretty. It comes out in these long, curly things which look really nice in a dessert, and you can also use them to garnish the dessert at the end. So the zest of 1 lime. And then also I use about 1/4 cup of honey. And also honey lasts for a really long time. So when you're at the orchard, be sure to pick up honey if they have it there and get a year's supply because it'll last the full year. And I like to put that fresh honey in from the honeybees right in there. So all of that goes into your pan and you can kind of just churn it around, mix it up. And then in a separate bowl, we add in about 3/4 cup of flour and a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, as well as about 3 tablespoons of butter, chilled and sliced very finely. So they're little pieces, and then we're going to start mixing that together with our hands to make the crumble. So don't be shy about just getting your hands in there and really mixing this all up. The butter is going to clump, and that's what's going to sort of form the crumbles. And this is going to be a really yummy crumble for the top of the crisp. And then we're just going to pour this right on top. So here's what it looks like when we're about to pop it in the oven, and we've done that all in under 20 minutes. But we are going to bake it for about 45 minutes, and that can bake in there while we work on our entree. These are artificial man-made hive boxes, and inside each box there's a slat of wood, and on that board the bees build their comb. Then the bees deposit the honey inside of those combs, And once the comb is thoroughly filled with honey, they layer it with their special beeswax. This beeswax is also edible and can be used for candles and other items. Bees are an important asset to any orchard as they pollinate the apple trees. After the honey is extracted from the combs, it's filtered and ready for consumption. Some people say that natural honey lasts a lifetime, that it never goes bad. Everybody loves an apple pie, and I promised that everything we're going to make today was going to be made in under 20 minutes. And everybody knows the hard part of an apple pie is making the crust from scratch. That's why you find so many pre-made crusts in the store today, even pre-made fillings or pies completely baked that you can just go pick up and go. But since we got our apples fresh from the orchard, we want to at least make the filling fresh with our delicious apples. But we can use a pre-made pie crust. Now I like this kind, which is one that we roll out into the pan, a lot better than the types that are already pre-made in the pan because it looks completely homemade, and it's also got less preservatives in it than some of the other pre-made crusts. So it comes like this, pre-made and pre-flattened. When you're making a homemade crust, as you know, you have to roll the dough, knead the dough, flour your table, roll it all out, and it's very time consuming. So that's the part that most people don't want to do. So with the pre-made crust, we simply roll it out over our pie pan as if we had just rolled it from scratch ourselves. So it'll actually look very homemade. Okay, so regardless of the type of pan you're using, it's always a good thing to kind of stretch your dough over the edge. If your pan doesn't have a big lip like this one that I'm using today, that's okay. It can just flop over the edge. It can always be trimmed with kitchen shears, you know, to remove the little bit of excess dough. So now we're ready to fill the pie with our fresh, straight from the orchard apples. For an apple pie, the filling is actually the easiest part. Once you're done peeling, slicing, and coring your apples, then you're going to need about 6 cups of apples. The other ingredients are relatively simple. It's about 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And just sprinkle that right on top. That's what makes it good. And a little bit of flour, about 3 tablespoons of flour. And then I put in about a teaspoon, about a half teaspoon of cinnamon and a teaspoon of allspice. So a total of 1 teaspoon of spice. Whatever you have on hand will work, whether it's nutmeg, allspice, cinnamon, any of those will work. And then you just toss this to coat the flour onto all of the apples, the flour-sugar mixture. Now when I'm cooking, I just like to kind of throw things in. So if I'm in a spicier mood, I might throw in a little bit extra cinnamon. You can also toss in a little bit of brown sugar into your apple pie mixture. That makes it taste really good as well. So once you got everything nicely coated, it's ready to go into the pie shell. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, so now we're ready to put it right into that pie shell. Now we're ready to just roll the top part of the pie crust on the top. And I know I'm going to need to stretch it just a little bit for my extra large pan here. And so you just plop that right on the top. Look how easy that is. No mess. And like I said, if you have excess amount of dough, you can just trim it away with a good pair of kitchen shears right along the edge of the pie. I actually don't mind a little excess dough. Some people really like to eat the crust of the pie. And if you have a little extra, you can just kind of squish it right in. And so now I like to flute the edges of the pie so that it looks pretty. Let's push that down together. So there's a lot of different styles of pie crusts. There's rope edges, fluted edges, and I find that if you just kind of pinch it with your fingers, you can make an attractive edging. Now one thing I like to do is make a little design on the top of the pie, and we need to poke some holes in it anyway for ventilation. So I'm going to try to make a little apple design here, and I like to use the edge of a fork because it pokes some holes right into the pie. And we can make a pretty shape and design. So I'm attempting to make a shape of an apple and then a little design for the stem. And turn the fork in the other way to make a little bit of a leaf shape. A couple more pricks down the center, and there we have a very beautiful design of an apple on our pie. You can also use the fork to do other little designs if you want, just some little touches around the edges. And if it's not an apple pie, you can also use the fork to make all sorts of different designs. So there you have it, an apple pie done in under 20 minutes. Now we're ready to put it in the oven for about a half an hour at 375. So if you time it right like we did, your apple crisp will be ready just in time to take out and put your pie in. That looks good. It smells good too. And we can put our apple pie in. One of my favorite fall dishes is chicken sautéed with apples. So what you need to do is get 4 chicken breast halves, and they need to be pounded out with a meat mallet. Now a lot of people don't like to do this to tenderize their meat because it kind of gets messy and it sprays around. And so I have a little quick tip. You can actually use a plastic Ziploc bag, put the chicken in there, and then pound it in there, and all of the juice remains intact in the bag. You can also use 2 sheets of wax paper if you have that. And so I've already put the chicken in the bag, and now I'm just going to pound it out. And do that to all of your chicken breasts until they're nice and tender, about 3/4 of an inch thick. And try to do it evenly. So if part of the chicken is a little bit thinner, don't pound that part as much as the thicker part of the chicken breast. This is an easy recipe because all of the ingredients have just a measurement of 1. So you want to turn the heat to about medium-high heat, and then you want to add about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So not very much because this is actually a very low-calorie and healthy meal, and we're just using the oil to give something for the chicken to sauté in. Next we're going to take the chicken breast out of the bag and stick it right in the nice hot sauté pan. So you want to sauté that for about 3 minutes per side. The ingredients for sautéed chicken with apples is really easy to remember because all of the ingredients have the number 1 in it. So we're going to use 1 apple, 1 cup of apple juice, fresh juiced that we just did, 1 fresh onion chopped, and we're also going to use 1 clove of garlic and 1 teaspoon of thyme, as well as 1 teaspoon salt. So I'm just going to quickly slice the apple here so that it's totally ready to put into the chicken when it's done sautéing. Okay. The chicken is looking pretty good here, and it's ready to turn it over, about 3 minutes per side. Now that our chicken is sautéed, it's time to throw in the other ingredients. So 1 apple, 1 cup of apple juice. It's going to really tenderize the chicken. 1 onion. Our 1 clove of garlic. Our thyme. And our 1 teaspoon of salt. Oops. Now we're going to let that simmer for about 8 minutes. Our chicken is finished, and boy, does it smell good. So now we're going to turn off the heat, and we're going to take out the chicken, apples, and onions, and we're going to put them on a serving platter, leaving the remaining apple juice and sauces in the pan. So we're going to arrange this nicely on a serving platter. And look how pretty those apples look with the peel left on. So we're going to take 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard and pour it into the sauce and bring it to a boil. And so this is going to make a wonderful Dijon apple sauce with all of those flavors of the tarragon in there. And we're going to bring that to a quick boil for a few minutes to reduce the sauce, and then just pour it right over the chicken. And then I like to just garnish it with a little sprinkle of thyme. And there we have it. Beautiful sauteed chicken with apples. Now our pie is ready. We're almost done with everything. Looks beautiful, perfect. And there you have it. All we need to do is add a little yummy vanilla ice cream to our apple crisp, and we're all set. You can also add that to your hot apple pie. And don't forget your sauteed chicken with apples and your hot spiced cider. Apple picking was an annual family tradition in my household, one that I continue today with my own children. Being outdoors in nature always restores my spirit, and you can't deny the many health benefits of apples. So remember, have your apple a day. This has been Restoration of Spirit, and I'm Janet Kohl.